So we can start with first gesture. And just feeling a sense of wonder emerging. Remembering that at any moment we could leave this body. Every moment is being born. And all of these moments are happening right now. Just feeling our life at this moment. What is our story at this moment? Our challenge, our mission. May we meet the conditions of our life with our devotion to Dharma. And we dive in. Coming into the cradle of loving kindness. Feeling the tenderness or sad joy of being with ourselves in a world that things do not work out in all the ways we want. And we look around and realize we're not alone in that. We can see the universality of this condition, that all beings want happiness and all beings encounter sufferings. We move into the space of our being, our body. Sometimes they talk about the body of the Buddha as the Rupakaya, the form body, the body that appears for the benefit of beings. In a sense, it's the same truth for the bodhisattvas on the path. Our body is appearing for the benefit of ourselves and others. So we can drink tea and share that together. And We feel the space around us, above us, below us as well. This space merges with the space inside of us, like the space inside of the tea in the cup and the outside. The tea goes inside of us into the space of our body, but it comes from the outside, from the space of the world. Very straightforward. Same with our breath. We are pervaded by space and the shared space of the elements. And just feeling the space, this is a kind of coziness, you could say, to our own existence and subtle body. That can we be in our body and feel our little spot on the earth? Can you feel your spot being a part of the bigger spot, your home, and the bigger spot of your regionality, your neighborhood, your area, forest, wherever you are, and the bigger spot of this planet? Still, the spot you're in, the space you occupy, is the same essence of space at any scale. We don't have to travel. And then we move to the seventh gesture, feeling the space in our heart or body, and then feeling around our body. Dawning of the gentle moonlight on the snow. Feeling the whole body and the space around. Feeling the heart and rousing the supreme thought, may I be more and more compassionate for the benefit of beings. Oh, how I long to increase my wisdom and compassion for the benefit of everyone. This is love itself. We feel the tone of it, and that tone has energy and radiance. We bring up images or stories or situations that prime or stoke the ember, our hands bringing in suffering into the sun, which turns it into love and sends it back out. And we feel the space above us, below us, around us, inside of us, binding all beings. It's so good to have something we can do in a world with so much suffering. We're not powerless. We can actually develop our qualities and our responsiveness, bringing in the suffering we know of, sending out love to those beings and situations. We can have a sense of the sun and the moon shining in the space of our body solar system. And the other beings are like many planets coming around the sun. The gravity of interdependence, we never get far from each other. feeling the space above, below, and around and inside, and the light shining. We could have the feeling that what we're bringing in is love drenching suffering, and what we send out is love drenching suffering. We could reach the Rochi, the dragon level of one taste on one. This is also known as a form of bliss, of compassion. As Milarepa said, even feeling bad feels good. It's okay to include beings that you don't know. You can imagine connecting with beings that you've never met. You can do this. This is okay. I do this sometimes. You feel out into the space, and whatever appears in your mind, you embrace it, bringing in the suffering into the light, drenching it, sending it out as love. The power of radiant, luminous compassion can reach the mind stream of another being as an experience of their own nature dawning more clearly within their own mind stream. My teachers have shared this experience with me without even words, and I know it to be real. We can all generate this capacity. Sometimes we think of someone we know in our network of beings. They pop in our mind. We should honor this. It is not random. It either indicates our own karmic need to purify a connection with them, or that they are in need and somehow we are feeling that. Now, if yourself comes up, you can also embrace that. Don't feel any shame. It says begin the sequence of sending and taking with yourself, but actually it should say responsively use the sequence of sending and taking with yourself, or at least maybe it shouldn't say that, but I say that because we always hear the Dharma in this like linear sequential journey thing, but here sometimes it's like, oh, I need a little of this now. Interesting. I wasn't paying attention. That happens, right? So I wasn't paying attention to myself. Let me do this for myself for a little bit. Doesn't mean we'll always do that. That's the fear is, oh, they're reverting. They're only working on themselves. No, no, no. Just for a little bit. We trust ourselves. I feel like this is like you're driving a car and you're going a long way and you realize you need to stop and fill up the tank. Otherwise, you can't drive for others, right? So here in the middle of your timeline, check in on yourself. Do a little bit for yourself. You can afford to do it. Make sure your instrument, your vehicle is cared for before you keep driving. This is actually in service of all beings. Now, as soon as your mind starts going to others, you know you're ready to go. You can go back out. When you need to come back, come back. You are breathing in luminous energy and sending out luminous energy. There's no concept that can contain the power of this compassion. It is the one taste of suffering and compassion. I take it on. That force fierceness is love. I send it out. That generosity is love. There's no difference. Now take a moment and just stretch a little. So we talk about compassion practice, and we talk about, if you look at it as a linear scale, there's just the tender spark of bodhicitta rousing an altruistic thought. And then maybe here there's like feeling that thought, and it starts to radiate when you feel it, right? If you don't feel it, the thought comes up and it goes back down, comes back a little. But if you feel the thought, or it charges a little, if you then bring that thought to a situation that's powerful in your awareness and your karma, it radiates further and you feel it growing. If you then intentionally stoke that ember, it goes further still. If you are relating to that and start to practice in the uh, powerful way of unbearable compassion, where you're have so much longing that you're willing to feel strong emotion, intense emotion, it grows even further. And then if you can see the one taste, it's the pinnacle of the practice, because you're it's sort of like, you could also see the one taste at any level, but you see how the unbearable compassion down to just the first thought is a spectrum of increasing energy of luminosity. But the one taste could be happen at any of those times. I put it at the top, but not because of its intensity. It's outside of the realm of intensity. One taste could happen at any of the levels. Do you see how I'm talking about the difference between the increase in relative energy and then the change in perception? Really, it's kind of like the one taste is understanding the clearness of the crystal. The rising is more and more facets are being brought online. Do you see how that relative and ultimate play together? So it's like we're not afraid of rousing really strong emotion. In fact, that's the goal. And I was very happy to see this in some Indian texts. I think I'll have to find it. I have it in my, when I unpack my Dharma library. I there's a book that I think it's Arya Deva, but one of the great panditas of and tantric masters, Mahayana masters of India, about 84 Mahasiddhas, and then there's the 16 panditas or whatever. But that he you see, I saw his writing translated, and it's exactly the same, like plaintive kind of emotional dramatic style that you see in the Tibetan text. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I mean, the Tibetans didn't come up with that. That was in India. That was already there. That kind of like, in the phrases that that they use. I mean, you can kind of, you just totally see like, oh, it's a lineage. It was there a long time before. The thing I think is so important for us is to know that this spectrum, what I think we're realizing maybe, or I'm proposing, is that faith, depa, and and compassion, karuna, they're not that different. And if you look at mogu as like devotion, all of these have strong emotion, and there are different kinds of faith, right? There are three different kinds, but the one that is most powerful to me is the emotional kind. And when you describe the peak emotionality or intensity of the energy in the body felt as emotion for devotion, mogu, when you describe the peak experience of faith in the Dharma, could be in the teacher or the teaching or the practice, or, it's very connected, but slightly different. And then if you describe unbearable compassion, the descriptions subjectively throughout the history of Buddhism are the same. Tears, strong emotion, hair standing on end, that kind of thing. In each of the descriptions, they talk about this kind of blissful, ecstatic love. It's exactly the same. So when we really get into powerful compassion, powerful faith, powerful devotion, it's the same thing. We might have a slightly different causal beginning, like why did we get into it? What were we focusing? What was the object? The actual experience becomes unified.
I kind of feel like that's what you were saying earlier when you were talking about receiving, and I'm paraphrasing what you said, receiving, compassion from your teachers and it leading to an even deeper experience of your own nature, or deeper understanding of your own nature. I feel like you were just like, maybe that's, it's all just right there.
Oh, thank you, Janet. What a beautiful tie-in. Exactly where I was coming from. That's right. And I don't think I knew it at that moment, but now I see exactly what you're saying. It's identical. I think that's in this teaching, right? That if we can, work with this sense of the one taste of Tonglen, we actually are also connecting with this blissful wisdom and devotion, right? And it's a fuel, right? At this level, at that way of relating to it, Tonglen becomes self-sustaining, or I could call it indestructible Tonglen, because it can, up to that point, our Tonglen can kind of go up or down or be exhausting. But once you hit that one taste of it, it really is like, okay, this feels good. My whole body can kind of keep sustaining this. This is naturally sustained. It's almost like the way the sun shines on its own. It's naturally doing that. So yeah, that's beautiful, Jan. Thank you. That's a really great example of the tie-in. Yeah.
Nicholas, does this relate to Wind Horse at all?
Oh, wow. Another good tie-in. Yes, exactly. Wow, really good. You guys are on fire this morning. Thank you. You're both more awake than I am. I love it. That's right. The wind horse is our life force.
Life force.
The ki in Japan, chi in China, and prana, and lung ta, mounting the lung, riding the lung, the wind horse. Riding a horse was, of course, the vehicle of Tibet. They don't have cars. Now they like little motorcycles that they dress up like horses, but they definitely, but the wind horse, lung ta, mounting the wind of life, riding the wind of life, riding our life force. That's really this, isn't it? And so if we rouse our compassion, our faith, our devotion, naturally our life force, the lung ta, increases. And when it increases, we have more energy for things. We have more clarity in our perceptual being. And this is really important, because without enough lungta, we don't have the life force energy to engage these practices. But when we have practices like this, that it's all one field of that energy of, and in our first gesture, we're coming into this very subtle, the wind horse that abides at the heart center. It's kind of the where life lives in the body, and then of course it pervades, the pervading wind, and the motility and the up and down winds and all that. But the thing is life is lungta, or lungta is life, aliveness. And I think we're just looking at the nature of lungta as opposed to just riding it. We're like, wait, what is lungta? And it turns out it is innate devotion, innate faith, innate compassion, innate wisdom. It is the all of that, the clear light of our being. So, but you could easily experience, it's our nature. We could experience though lungta and not know it's our nature. It could be a vehicle to look and recognize our nature. But here it's a very subtle point, but we're saying it's also our nature. We could actually experience it, and as a gateway in, like you're both saying. Yeah, it's so cool. Very cool. Good job. Good stuff. All you sentient beings, I have a good or bad connection with. As soon as you have left this confused dimension, may you be born in the Western Sukhavati, and once you're born, complete the promise in the past. Have a great day.